My name is Selena Lawson. I'm 30 years old. Last Tuesday, I sat alone in my office in Portland and listened to 43 voicemails from my family. People I had not spoken to in 7 years. Not one person said, "I'm sorry." Every message said the same 2 words. Help me. 7 years earlier, I walked out of my mother's house with one suitcase, $200, and the clothes on my back. After I left, my family told everyone in our small town that I was unstable. They said I needed help. They acted worried. But they were never worried. They were relieved. And they would have stayed relieved if my sister had not searched my name online last week. Before I tell you what happened next, take a second to like and subscribe if this story means something to you. And tell me where you're listening from tonight. Now let me take you back to Thanksgiving 2019. The night everything finally broke. Ridgewood, Ohio. A tiny town where everybody knew your business before you did. Thanksgiving at the Lawson house always looked perfect from the outside. My mother used her expensive china. 15 relatives packed around the long table. My father poured wine while everyone talked too loudly. I was 23 years old. I worked 2 jobs. I waited tables at Rosario's and answered phones at a real estate office downtown. I saved every dollar I could. My sister Meredith had just gotten promoted at an insurance company. Same salary. Bigger title. My mother stood at the head of the table and raised her glass. To Meredith, she said proudly, "Our shining star." Everyone smiled. Everyone clapped. I raised my glass too. Nobody asked how I was doing. Nobody asked about my classes or my future. I felt invisible in my own family. But that night, I had come with one question. I waited until dessert, when the noise settled down. "Mom," I asked carefully, "is there any money left in Grandma Ruth's education fund?" The room went silent. Not normal silence. Dangerous silence. My mother slowly set down her coffee cup. Then she looked around the table before looking at me. Her voice turned sweet. "This is what I've been dealing with," she said. "She's been acting erratic for months." My stomach dropped. My Aunt Deborah reached over and touched my hand. "Honey, your mother only wants what's best for you." I didn't answer. I carried plates into the kitchen and started washing dishes. Because that was my role in the family. Everyone else celebrated. I cleaned. The faucet was running, but I could still hear voices from the dining room. Then I heard my mother talking quietly to my Aunt Patricia. "Ruth's fund paid for Meredith's sorority dues and car," she whispered. "Selena doesn't need it. She's not going anywhere anyway." I froze. Grandma Ruth had promised me that money herself. $12,000. She had sat with me at her kitchen table 2 years before she died and held my hands. "This is for your future," she told me. "Nobody can touch it but you." Somebody touched it. I walked back into the dining room. "That money was mine," I said. My mother didn't even blink. "You're being dramatic, Selena. I'm talking about money Grandma left to me by name. You always make everything about money." Then she said something that stopped me cold. "You sound just like your grandmother." The way she said Grandma Ruth's name sounded ugly. Like it disgusted her. 10 minutes later, my mother gathered everyone into the living room. I knew exactly what was coming. She stood in the center of the room like she was performing in a play. "I've tried to keep this private," she said sadly. "But Selena hasn't been well. She's been having episodes." I looked at my father. He stared at the carpet. I looked at my brother Kyle. He nodded at my mother. I looked at Meredith. She kept scrolling on her phone. 15 relatives sat there. Not one person asked if I was okay. Not one person defended me. I walked upstairs. I packed one suitcase. A winter coat. $200 from my tips at Rosario's. And a small wooden box Grandma Ruth had left me. I had never opened it. Because opening it meant accepting she was really gone. I carried my suitcase downstairs. My mother called after me. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I closed the door softly behind me. Because deep down, I already knew. I was never coming back. Snow fell across Ridgewood while I walked to the bus station. I bought a Greyhound ticket. The farthest place I could afford was Portland, Oregon. The trip took 38 hours. I barely slept. I held Grandma Ruth's box on my lap while America passed by outside the window. Cornfields. Mountains. Rain. A woman sitting beside me shared half her sandwich outside Omaha. She saw I was crying but didn't ask questions. She just handed me a napkin. Sometimes strangers show more kindness in 10 seconds than family does in 20 years. Portland was cold and gray when I arrived. I spent my first night at a women's shelter. Then a cheap hostel that smelled like bleach. I had no friends. No family. No credit history. Nothing. Only my work ethic. Within 2 weeks, I found a receptionist job at a small consulting company called Hale and Associates. 8 employees. Tiny office. Old building. I answered phones and sorted mail. It wasn't glamorous. But it was a start. 3 weeks later, I checked Facebook for the last time. My mother had posted in the family group. "Please pray for Selena. She's going through a difficult time. We just hope she's safe wherever she is." People filled the comments with sympathy. Kyle commented first. She always was the dramatic one. 47 people liked it. I deleted Facebook that same night. Nobody tells you what no contact really costs. No emergency contact. No birthday calls. No Christmas cards. No one to help when you get sick. And the worst part? Knowing people back home are telling stories about you while you stay silent. For years, I was the family ghost. The cautionary tale my mother told at church. But silence gave me something too. One morning, I woke up in Portland and realized something was missing. My mother's voice. That constant voice telling me I wasn't good enough. For the first time in my life, it was quiet. At work, Margaret Hale noticed me quickly. During my first week, I reorganized 3 years of client files. Nobody asked me to. I just needed order. Margaret stopped beside my desk. "You fixed all this in 4 days?" I nodded. She pulled up a chair. "Tell me what else is broken." While I was rebuilding my life in Portland, my family kept building their lie in Ohio. I learned the details years later. My mother told people I was living in a treatment facility. My father told neighbors they hoped I was safe. Kyle posted vague messages online about selfish family members. Meredith moved into my old apartment and sold most of my furniture. For 7 years, they treated me like a tragedy. Meanwhile, year 1 in Portland was survival. Year 2 became something else. I started building a future. At Hale and Associates, I moved from receptionist to project coordinator in 6 months. Margaret trusted me with a small community garden project. I finished early and saved the client money. After that, she kept giving me more responsibility. I enrolled in online business classes through Portland State University. Work during the day. School at night. Cheap meals. Used clothes. Long nights. There was no magical movie moment. Just hard work every single day. I didn't want revenge. I just never wanted to feel powerless again. Margaret respected me because I worked hard. Not because she pitied me. When I caught a billing mistake that could have cost the company thousands of dollars, she promoted me. "You check everything twice," she said. "It's how I grew up," I answered. She didn't ask questions. She understood enough. By the end of year 3, I graduated. No ceremony. No family cheering. I printed my diploma myself and hung it in my office. The next morning, Margaret knocked on my door. "How does project manager sound?" she asked. The company had grown. And so had I. That same year, Jess Parker joined our office. Jess was funny, smart, and loud in the best way. One night after work, we ate takeout together while finishing a deadline. She asked why I never talked about family. So I finally told someone everything. The Thanksgiving dinner. The lies. The fund. The bus ride. Jess listened quietly. Then she said something shocking. "My parents told people I died." I stared at her. "Why?" "Because I'm gay," she said softly. We sat there in silence. Then I cried for the first time in years. On my 28th birthday, Jess pointed at Grandma Ruth's wooden box sitting on my shelf. "You've carried that thing around for 5 years," she said. "Open it." So I did. Inside was Grandma Ruth's pearl necklace. A childhood photo of me smiling with a missing front tooth. And a letter. Her handwriting shook across the page. "Selena," it began, "if you're reading this, it means you had the courage to leave." Good. My hands trembled. "I wanted to leave too," she wrote. "But I was afraid. Don't spend your life holding this family together while it destroys you. You do not owe anyone your life." I read the letter 3 times. Then I reached the final lines. The education fund was real. I left instructions with my lawyer, Mr. Wetherb. "Ask Patricia. She knows." Everything suddenly made sense. Grandma Ruth never wanted me to stay silent. My mother did. By year 6, Hale and Associates had grown into a major company. Margaret called me into her office. "I want you to become COO. Chief Operating Officer." The girl who once slept in a shelter now helped run a company with more than 100 employees. I wasn't rich. I drove a used Subaru. I rented a small apartment. But I had peace. And for someone like me, peace felt expensive. A regional business magazine interviewed me for an article about women in leadership. My photo. My title. My story. A cleaned-up version of it anyway. The article went online in October. I didn't think about Ohio. I never searched for my family. I let them go completely. And for 7 years, they let me go too. Not one call. Not one letter. Nothing. Until March 2026. That was when Meredith searched my name online. Not because she missed me. Because she needed money. 6 months before the voicemails, I received an email from Aunt Patricia. She apologized for staying silent all those years. Then she told me the truth. Grandma Ruth's lawyer had created separate education accounts for me and Meredith. $12,000 each. My mother forged my signature and moved my money into Meredith's account. Patricia knew because she witnessed the documents. I sat there staring at the screen. The money itself no longer mattered. But the betrayal did. My mother stole from me. Then called me unstable when I asked about it. That single moment explained my entire childhood. Patricia added one more thing. "Your mother is chairing the Ridgewood Community Fundraiser this spring." At the time, I didn't understand why that mattered. Soon, I would. 2 months later, Margaret walked into my office smiling. "A pastor from Ohio contacted us," she said. "Small town fundraiser. They want a keynote speaker for community development." My chest tightened. "What town?" "Ridgewood." I almost said no. The word sat right on my tongue. Then I remembered Grandma Ruth's letter. And the door closing behind me in the snow. "I'll do it," I said. After Margaret left, I searched for the fundraiser online. Committee Chair, Diane Lawson. My mother. I texted Patricia. "I'm the keynote speaker." Her answer came back instantly. "I know. I didn't tell your mother. Be ready. 2 weeks before the fundraiser, Meredith searched my name online. She had recently divorced. Her mortgage payments were late. She needed someone with good credit to co-sign a loan. She thought about me like an old tool sitting in a drawer. Useful again. She searched my name. LinkedIn. Business articles. Conference photos. My company profile. She stared at the screen in shock. Then she called my mother. "Mom," she whispered, "Selena is a COO." Patricia told me. My mother went silent. Not happy. Not proud. Terrified. Because suddenly, the lie she had told for 7 years was falling apart. The call started that same night. I was finishing a meeting when my phone began buzzing. Again. 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 43 missed calls. All from Ohio. I sat alone in my office and listened to every voicemail. Meredith sounded fake at first. "Hey Selena, it's Meredith. Call me back. I really need to talk." My father sounded nervous. "Your mother and I could really use your help." My mother sounded cold. "Family is family, Selena." Kyle wanted money for a business idea. And Meredith kept calling back. Her voice finally cracked by the last message. "Please help me." There it was. Those 2 words. Help me. Not "I'm sorry." Not "we were wrong." Just help me. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. 7 years. 7 years of rebuilding myself from nothing. And the first time they contacted me, they wanted something. I called Jess. "My family found me," I said. She paused. "Which part hurts?" "The part where I'm not surprised." I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I didn't answer anyone. A few days later, my mother emailed my work account. She accused me of being selfish. She claimed she had protected my reputation for years. Then Meredith sent me a LinkedIn message asking me to co-sign her loan. "You owe us that much," she wrote. Kyle posted publicly on Facebook. Funny how some people get a fancy title and forget family. People agreed with him. I took screenshots of everything. Not for court. For myself. Proof. That night, Patricia warned me. "They know you're speaking at the fundraiser. They'll be there." March 15th. I flew into Columbus and drove through miles of gray farmland. Ridgewood looked exactly the same. The diner. The church. The hardware store. The community center on Maple Street. 200 people filled the fundraiser hall. I signed in at the registration table. My badge read. Selena Lawson. COO, Hale and Associates. Keynote speaker. Through the doorway, I saw my family. My mother sat proudly at the center table wearing a navy dress. My father beside her. Meredith smiling too hard. Kyle near the buffet. None of them knew yet. At 7:15, Pastor Daniel Briggs stepped to the microphone. "Our keynote speaker tonight grew up in a small town just like this one," he announced. "Please welcome Selena Lawson." The room applauded. Then I walked onto the stage. My mother's face went completely white. My father nearly dropped his glass. Meredith looked like she couldn't breathe. Kyle froze mid-bite. And then something incredible happened. The entire room stood up. A standing ovation. 200 people clapping for the daughter they had been told was broken. My mother stayed seated. I stepped to the podium. "Thank you," I said calmly. "It's been a while." Nervous laughter spread through the room. I gave my speech. Professional. Confident. I talked about community programs and rebuilding neighborhoods. Then near the end, I changed direction. "I grew up in a town like this," I said quietly. "Some of you may remember me." The room became still. I left 7 years ago with $200 and a suitcase. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because staying was costing me too much. Nobody moved. I was told I was unstable. But the truth is, the help I needed was distance. I never looked at my mother. I didn't need to. This work taught me something important, I continued. Community is about seeing people for who they really are. Not for the stories told about them. A woman in the third row covered her mouth. Whispers spread across the room. That's Diane's daughter. She said Selena was in rehab. She's a COO? When I finished, the crowd stood again. This time the applause lasted longer. After the speech, people crowded around me. Old teachers. Neighbors. Church members. Some hugged me. Some looked ashamed. Then my mother pushed through the crowd. Her smile looked painful. Selena, sweetheart, she said loudly. What a surprise. She opened her arms for a hug. I didn't move. You had my number for 7 years, I answered. Her smile twitched. You embarrassed this family tonight. I never named anyone. Meredith stepped forward. We need to talk about the family. I heard your voicemails, I said. All 43. Silence. Not one apology. Just help me. My father finally spoke. Selena, let's not do this here. Dad, I said softly, you had 7 years. Kyle crossed his arms. You think you're better than us now? No, I replied. I think I'm done being less than you needed me to be. Then I walked away. No yelling. No drama. Just calm. I sat in my rental car afterward with my hands on the steering wheel. Inside the building, people whispered in shocked little groups. By morning, the whole town would know. I called Jess. It's done, I told her. How do you feel? I looked out at the parking lot. Like I'm 30 years old for the first time. That night in my hotel room, I sent one email to my mother, father, Meredith, and Kyle. I told them I would not co-sign loans. I would not send money. And if they wanted a real relationship with me, it had to start with honesty. A real apology. Not excuses. Not guilt. Not family is family. Until then, my answer was no. A week later, I called Grandma Ruth's lawyer. Mr. Weatherb was retired, but he remembered everything. Your grandmother didn't trust your mother with those accounts, he admitted sadly. The money was gone forever. But I decided to do something else. Something Grandma Ruth would have loved. I created a scholarship at Portland State University for students separated from their families. Students trying to survive on their own. I named it the Ruth Lawson Community Scholarship. The university posted a photo online. 6-year-old me smiling. Grandma Ruth behind me with her pearls shining. It wasn't about revenge. It was about changing the ending. A few days later, Patricia called crying. I should have defended you years ago, she whispered. You're saying it now, I answered. It doesn't feel like enough. It isn't, I admitted. But it's a start. Then she told me what happened after the fundraiser. The town turned against my mother. People questioned her everywhere. At church. At the post office. At the grocery store. The story she had built for 7 years collapsed almost overnight. Pastor Briggs asked her to step down from the fundraiser committee. My father moved into the guest bedroom. Not divorce. Just distance. One night, Patricia overheard him say something unbelievable. You lied about your own daughter, he told my mother. She proved you wrong without even saying your name. My mother blamed me for turning the town against her. My father finally answered honestly. No. You did that yourself. It was the first brave thing I had ever heard him say. Meredith lost her house. Without my help, the bank took it. She moved back into my parents' home. Into my old bedroom. The golden child now slept beside the nail holes where my posters once hung. I didn't feel victorious. Mostly, I felt sad. Meredith had spent her whole life protected by my mother. And now she didn't know how to stand alone. Being the favorite child can become its own prison. Kyle faced consequences too. His girlfriend Tara saw the Facebook post calling me ungrateful. She packed a bag and left him. "That's not the kind of man I want," she told him. Screenshots of his post spread around town. For the first time, Kyle realized words online have weight. 6 weeks after the fundraiser, I received a handwritten letter from my father. He apologized. Not for my mother. For himself. For every time I stayed quiet, he wrote. "You deserved a father who chose you." I read the letter twice. Then I put it away. It was the first real apology I had ever received from anyone in my family. 3 months later, I hosted dinner in my apartment in Portland. Jess argued with my neighbor Dave about hot sauce. Margaret laughed on my couch while holding a cheap glass of wine. Coworkers set the table. The plates didn't match. The wine cost $12. The table had scratches. But everyone there wanted to be there. No pretending. No fear. No performances. I looked around that small table and thought about the giant Thanksgiving table back in Ohio where I had felt invisible. This tiny table felt warmer. Safer. Real. My father's letter still sat in my drawer. Kyle eventually texted one word. "Sorry." I never answered. Not because I hated him. Because I needed more than one word. I still don't know what happens next with my family. Maybe nothing. Maybe someday something honest. But for the first time in my life, I'm okay with not knowing. The door is not wide open. But it isn't fully locked either. It's simply waiting. Waiting for someone to arrive with something more than help me. Until then, I have peace. I have people who choose me. I have Sunday dinners. And that is enough. If you're listening to this story and it feels familiar, I need you to hear me clearly. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not crazy because you finally said no. And you are not ungrateful for wanting respect. Sometimes the people who call you difficult are simply angry because they can no longer control you. My family spent years saying 2 words. Help me. But the words I really needed were different. I'm sorry. Those are not the same thing. And you do not owe people your rescue when they still refuse to admit they hurt you. I used to think family meant staying no matter what. Now I understand something better. Real family chooses you. Not because they need something. Not because your name looks good on paperwork. Not because guilt forces them. They choose you because they love you. The bravest thing I ever did was not leaving home with $200. The bravest thing was refusing to walk back in when they finally called. Because by then, they still wanted help. But they still could not say sorry. My name is Selena Lawson. I'm 30 years old. And the most valuable thing I own is the peace I fought to build. Grandma Ruth once told me, the quietest person in the room is usually paying the most attention. She was right. I spent years paying attention. And eventually, I finally chose myself. That's my story. If you made it this far, thank you. And I want to ask you one honest question. If your family called you tomorrow after years of silence, what would they say? Help me or I'm sorry? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more emotional stories like this, check the description. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.